old school drug laws and stuff like that raises its ugly head. So it's just taking another form. The injustices of the war on drugs and the casualties it caused between 1980s and 2000s is getting ready to raise its ugly head with the opiate addiction, where they're charging black, yeah, when they're charging black people who may have been involved in some kind of, been involved in some type of overdose or whatever case may be, whether you be a dealer or you somebody using it with the person who overdosed, they're charging them with murder. Well, at least in Miami-Dade County they are. And then everywhere else they're charging white people with manslaughter. So I'm like, this is not different. So I think we need to be very proactive when it comes to the various charges that they're doing on a local level before it becomes a nationwide epidemic. And I think, right now, me and my state attorney, we're not in good, we're not in good standing right now, because I'm like, listen, I have to bring it up because I had to give her the 2 young men in South Beach. I'm like, you guys charge them with first-degree murder, and we have the same exact crime that happened in California with like 3 white men and 2 women that died. And they got charged appropriately with manslaughter. And so with that, I'm like, listen, we got to be way proactive. I'm talking about common sense proactive when it comes to certain things, and not think, oh yeah, well, they're not worth it. I'm like, no, if Black Lives Matter, that means every Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, listen, I didn't say don't charge them. I said charge them appropriately. And so right now I'm probably about to lose a friend over that who works with the state attorney's office, because I'm like, no, you can't sit there and watch that happen. And again, I'm not saying don't charge them, but charge them appropriately.
Go do that. Brother Ron, you want to lead the way? 7 o'clock. Be quiet.
Okay, I listen. I know once y'all guys get started talking, but I guess that'll be a good way for people to understand what we're about to do tonight and what we're going to try to bring to them weekly. We want to welcome everybody to our first inaugural Fatherhood Talks. We would have been on our YouTube page, but we had some issues again with YouTube. And we will be back on the YouTube page next week. So right now, if you're watching us now through the Facebook pages that are sharing it, and you would definitely be able to go to our YouTube page. Look for, as I would say that right now, look for our YouTube page, subscribe to it so you can be notified when we have our actual talks. Tonight, conversation. My topic for tonight is the confessions of deadbeat dad. And it's not probably what you're going to think it is, but it hopefully is something that gets your ear, and then hopefully you will listen to some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. I also welcome you at any time when you're able to in the chat, write questions and comments in the chat. I'll try to moderate them and make sure we can bring them back to the panel to be able to discuss. But let's just start with a little go around, letting the panel introduce themselves. Introduce myself first. I'm Ron Osborne Williams. I'm a father. And leave it to the rest of the panel, and then we'll come back and I'll get us started.
My name is Johnny Gaspard. I'm a father of 2 and excited about the opportunity to come here today and hear.
Robert Menard, I'm a father of 2, and I'm also very excited about the new challenges that we're going to be facing and everything we're taking on, and I'm happy about this new endeavor.
My name is Lawrence Jordan. I'm a father of 2, grandfather of 1, and enjoying being with you fellas tonight.
I'm Frederick Adams, father of 3, and a grandson, and I love to be with you guys tonight also.
I'm Justin Gibson, father of 4, and I'm just ready to seize this opportunity the best that we can.
Hey, good evening. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I am a father of 7, a grandfather of 1, and I'm looking forward to this discussion, well-needed discussion.
Okay, well, I think that's everybody on the panel tonight. And so I want to welcome you guys on and thank you for taking your time out again tonight to join us for another moment of Fatherhood Talks. Tonight's discussion is about confessions of a deadbeat dad. So the first thing I want to throw out and is the first question that I have for tonight, and really go around and hear what you guys have to say. What would you and how would you define a deadbeat dad? How do you define what is your understanding as fathers, as men? What do you consider a deadbeat dad?
I'll jump in first. When I think of a deadbeat dad as someone who's not involved, someone who's not willing to invest any time in being there for his kids. Again, a lot of times the society reflects it as someone who's not financially supporting his children. But I think if a man is willing to be present, invest time for his children, even if generally he will be spending some kind of money because he's investing time. But that's what I think is a deadbeat dad, one who's not investing time and being available for his.
And, I'll second that, because one thing that a lot of people like to think is that it's the monetary support that creates, if I put him on child support, he's not deadbeat, he's deadbeat because he's not paying child support. Well, I can pay all the child support I want to, but if I'm not there emotionally, if I'm not there and showing a presence and engaging with my children, that's a form of being a deadbeat dad. I think it's more, the kids will remember the interaction you had more than they'll remember the things you bought them. When you think about the times when the kids are younger and you give them a gift, especially little kids, they open the gift, they're more excited about playing with the box than the actual toy. So when you give your presence and you're around those kids and you're giving them that quality time, that's going to be more precious to them than anything else.
Well, my definition of a deadbeat dad would be, I have to understand that it is a derogatory term. That's trying to explain something that may be a little bit more complex. So when you're talking about the 4 quarters of fatherhood, whether you're talking about time, whether you're talking about talents, when you're talking about treasures, and then again, when you're talking from treatment, you understand? And I think since everybody is not, most people and just about all people are not perfect, then we have to address those areas, those 4 areas of time, talent, treasures, and treatment that we may be dead in, you understand? And because of those dead areas may contribute to you being a deadbeat dad or mom. But as a man, I can only speak from fatherhood or being a dad because that's my experience. But as far as being deadbeat, yeah, it's like those 4, it's the deadbeats that identify where you need to get a heartbeat at, you understand? And it's those areas where your heart may not be beaten at, and it's okay because we as a village, we complement each other. So the areas I may be dead in, another man may not be. And this is what makes us cohesive. And as in our relationship, particularly in fatherhood and just in humanity, we give life to each other. We give CPR to each other in those areas where we did. So being open to that and being okay with saying, okay, you know what, I'm glad somebody called me out on areas I may be dead in because I may not know it. But the fact that somebody may call me out on it, be it correct or derogatory, it gives me an opportunity to address it as opposed to being ignorant to it.
Again. There he go again.
So as you say that, one of the things I find that is important to know is that and I think that Lightborn shared very clear that this idea of, that deadbeat dad is like a derogatory term. I mean, and it's one that's probably more used, but not perceived as derogatory. It sometimes is very perceived as justified. I have concerns about what we justify and how we justify things. And really, when you call somebody something, what is your definition of them? Or did you just pick it up from the trendy language that's being used on a day-to-day basis? So what I wanted to do in reverse to that is ask the question of, and what we talk about in our program, Fatherhood Talks, that's on Wednesday night at 6:30, private for fathers. I would say, what do we consider a 24/7 dad? And as we talk about in our program, what does it mean to be and does it have any real difference from the opposite of what you kind of talked about, a deadbeat dad being?
I would respond to that. Being a 24/7 dad, it's really being present. Being a 24/7 dad is advocating for your children, for every child in Broward County, and even in the world. It's work. Most things in life is work, and if you put in the work, you will most times get the results. So a 24/7 dad does the 360. He does the caring, the nurturing, the showering, dropping off to school, there whenever the child is crying, and just trying to keep what's the word we use, nurture the child to be a productive citizen. It's work, and that's just how I believe it is the best way to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel that a 24/7 dad is just a dad that is there for support. You know, there are many different situations that people are in, different types of relationships. And so that may mean support in several different ways, depending on the situation. But regardless of the situation, that dad is there to be supportive whenever support is needed.
Okay.
Let me say, and I say this with all due respect, I think, being a dad is not work at all. I think it's an experience. I think it's natural for Black men in particular to be fathers. We're fathers in our community. We're fathers to children that aren't our own. We're quick to correct young people, even at the risk of, parents, because this whole culture has been centered around vilifying Black men. We are always trying to, correct them when we can. We are mentors to so many young people, kids. We are the fathers to sometimes our nieces and nephews and cousins. And for us, I don't think it's work at all. Work ends. Some people work at 9 to 5. Some people, even they self-employed, they stop working at some point. They go on vacation. But I think being a dad is an experience, and it's a loving experience that we, naturally and innately in our African minds love to do. But we understand how necessary it is to grow and envision, one day of having a community. Like I said, a job, a work, if you will, it ends at some point. You take breaks and all that. You don't get that when you're experiencing, I think, fatherhood. It's this notion, even with deadbeat implies that even at a certain age, a kid is out on their own. As some of the older fathers will know, the kids become even more expensive after 18. They get into bigger problems, they get into larger challenges. So the job of fatherhood is never done. And so, I think it's more of an experience. I think lensing it as an experience, I think is also helpful even for this discussion. And because we could talk about what those experiences are and what those experiences are like in a system that hates Black men.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna to reiterate, I totally agree with what Talon was saying, because I was gonna say it's a 24/7 dad. The important thing is about the support. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being right 100% of the time. It's about being there. It's about being supportive. It's about taking action. And that, to me, is really the core when you talk about a 24/7 dad, because the name itself says it. You're a dad 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop. There's no retirement. There's no giving up. It's strictly support, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, Johnny, I was waiting on you. I was really waiting on you. You want me to pass and let you go, or what you gonna do?
Go ahead.
I was
Go
waiting on you,
ahead.
Johnny.
Do it, like, bro. Do it.
But you know what? When you say the let's just look at the title. You said 24/7 dad. So for me, that speaks more to success than it does to support. And so it's saying that, like most men, we are very purpose driven. And so when we're purpose driven, that means our goal and our aim is more towards success than it is ever support. So I don't think that we need to reduce fathers to just support. You understand? When our DNA makeup is success driven. I mean, you can see that just about every aspect of a man's life. And I think that we shouldn't settle as men to being or for being supportive when we're born to be success.
Well, when I say support, let me elaborate on it. So when I say support, I mean being there, being active, giving all that you have. It's not, because a lot of times, and you say support and people just think monetary. I'm there, I have a job, I'm coming home, I'm giving, I'm paying the bills. That's not the support I'm talking about. I'm talking about when that child needs you, and whether they're 5, they're newborn, and they're 50. If they pick up that phone and they call you, you are there to back them up. That's what I mean by support. Support is never, for me, whenever I use the term support, it's never monetary. It's always an engagement piece. And I think that so many times society has labeled the dad as such. When they say support, it's always, well, how much money is he going to give? No, it's how much love can you give? How much heart do you have? How much time can you spend? Because those are the things that when you invest them, you're going to get back 20-fold. And no matter who you invest that with, it's always going to be a return.
Okay, so looks like everybody is speaking in high regards and looking almost in this utopian world that we live in, where fathers are able to just step in and do what they need to do, how they need to do it. But we know that based on our own experiences and our own testimonies, that's not how many of the relationships and situations go. And I think that, here we even get to because based on our conversation we've had already, I mean, we can almost cancel the word deadbeat by the way we've kind of talked, because it wouldn't even be an idea of that even being emphasis based on us talking about 24/7 dad. What are some of the barriers that we think fathers face from being 24/7 dads and putting them closer into a alleged deadbeat dad status? Because I would say that when we notice that there are barriers in a society, that means that there's something that dads are not, a man is not able to do. There's a difference between what he wants to do, talking more about what he cannot do, because there's a barrier there. And we know, we sometimes will say, I think our society overall sometimes glosses over this idea of the barriers. I've heard people say there should be no barriers. You should go out. I have my own attorney tell me, go to the house and demand your child. He said this. He said, I don't know what your problem was. And that's what I said, Brother Tylan. I said, well, brother, I ain't about to do that. I'll wait for you to finish your job that I paid you that $5,000 retainer for.
Well, most attorneys, notwithstanding the attorney that is with us, they love problems. They love problems. That's how they make money, right? So they love complicating something that could be even done very simply. But Ron, you are so right, and I love this conversation. And I think it's high time that we just take off the gloves, particularly as Black men. I think more appropriate conversation or even title for this is the myth of a Black deadbeat dad, because what has become synonymous with deadbeat is Black men. And people aren't really, talking about that. But the experience of fathers should be really, when you're talking about the Black community, should be talking about how we are interfered with. See, because remember I talked about, it's about this experience that we are that we love to have and we want to have, and what those blocks are that are interfering with that. And at the top is white supremacy, period. The biggest deadbeat dad is America, and the biggest bully is America. And they've reneged on their promise of 40 acres and a mule. We built this country, one of the most powerful countries in the nation, militarily, socioeconomically. And yet and still, you know, the Black man is subjugated to being the boogeyman with regard to how he engaged with his kids, if he's not in the kid's life. And I will tell you 9 out of 10 times, and I'm talking about lived experience, if a man is not in that child's life, it is because the system has aligned itself squarely with the woman. And they have been programmed to a very large extent to feel like that they are in total and complete control of this being that's in this world that it took 2 to make. But and all of this is done, it's not happenstance. A lot of people think, well, you know, if you do this, you do that, and you know, the system runs this way and runs that way. This is all done intentionally by design to disrupt the fact that they want to constantly vilify and keep in shackles psychologically, the Black man, because they know if they do that, they lose the protection. The family, the Black family, is dismantled because you lose, once again, protection. You lose the profit. You lose the profit. you lose the income of the man. So destabilizing Black men is to ensure that they got complete access to our children and to our women.
That was a lot right there. So, but Brother Tylan, you said a whole lot that's so true in many ways. And the laws of this country, unfortunately, have been created and set up in a way that does make many barriers for men in general to be fathers. We're in the state of Florida, most of us. And here in the state of Florida, if a man is not married to a woman and they have a child together, he doesn't have any legal rights to that child until the court says he does. So even though they were together and they participated in bringing this child into the world, even if he's there supporting her and he's there at the hospital and he's doing what them classes called Lamar classes, and he rubbing her stomach and he holding her hand in the hospital and he cut the umbilical tube cord at the hospital, he's still not the father because they were not married at the time they had the child. So he then has to go to a court to technically get the judge to put an order in writing that says you have the rights to make a decision about this child, because if him and her were to unfortunately fall out for whatever the reason may be, he doesn't have the legal right to say anything. She can literally pick up, take that child and move to a different state, and he couldn't do nothing about it without that court order saying he is the father.
Right.
So those are many of the barriers that many of us as fathers deal with. Some are able to maneuver and get past those barriers, but others, due to economic constraints or failure because of their encounters with the justice system, are unable to overcome. And that's just and I just brought up that one barrier. There's so many others. So I just wanted to share that from a legal perspective that I see is the biggest issue that many people don't realize in this country, that if a man is not married to the woman, under the law, he has no rights to make any decision regarding that child unless he goes to a court of law and they say he then has the right.
And can I just say one more thing? Because I know I spoke a lot, and I think this is important to say to people who are listening right now, that just because there's a law, it doesn't mean it's moral, doesn't mean that it's right, and that these laws were designed. These are like almost remnants of the slave code. And I don't know if you know what that is. There's the laws that are enacted to subjugate our people. And those same laws that say you have to be married, they know who that impacts, because even if that's a law for other people, people have resources and money and stuff like that. And you can look up and research the disparity, the economic disparity between Black men and white men. And that will definitely tell you the picture of how the game is being played. But that was a key point, brother, that you brought up about the court system in terms of how it alienates or it supports the alienation of one parent over the other.
Hey, what are there other barriers? All right, so we
Absolutely.
got the big one out of the way, the big one that we get to use as the big excuse. But what are some of the barriers that we also contribute to as fathers?
Okay. If anybody want to go before I do, I'll let them go. But I mean, I can give credence to everything that was said here, but at the end of the day, you still have statistical barriers, you know, and we have to actually face statistics that that leads to and I think the systemic barriers are first. So we're going to put these things in perspective in chronological order. So you're going to have systemic barriers, but then you're going to have statistical barriers, and then you're going to have sacrificial barriers, right? And so as a Black man, and you know me, I always have to be the voice of the woman sometimes, just for empathetic reasons, that I think racism is just as prevalent as sexism, right? As a matter of fact, if you ask me, I think worldwide, sexism is bigger than racism. So if that is true, right, then now we're talking about the sacrificial barriers where you know something is stacked against you, but you still push through it and you sacrifice to make sure the outcome of that child, right, is sustainable or successful. I think as Black men, we can learn a lot from Black women. That's number one. We have to understand that because you have systemic things in place that statistically, I think, and organically and instinctively, we have been just on a need or want to do good. We have actually changed the statistics as of 2015. And you got to remember, statistics are recorded with the census every 10 years. So as of 2015, which means the statistics are still good for what I'm about to say, that Black men organically are the best fathers in this country, and that's reported by the CDC. So I don't want to too much get hung up on the disparities of what we can't do versus the equities of what we are doing and can do. And so I can tell you kudos without even trying, Black men are the #1 fathers in this country as it pertains to involvement of their children. And I think too often we talk about things that too many things that's against us as opposed to the things that's for us that we don't even have a narrative about.
That is a great solution-oriented way to think about us as fathers. And I think that in many instances, again, if we were to go into a setting and say, hey, I would not, instead of saying I want to be a 24/7 dad, we would say I don't want to be a deadbeat dad. Just think about the language to use. You know, we don't use the affirmative, positive language very often when it represents to us. And that's because I think that we don't hear it very often. And I think and I think me and Lionel on a call a couple of weeks ago that this was something that I made very vivid. And I know Lionel feels the same way. We have to be empowering ourselves. We have to congratulate and celebrate like we do on Wednesday nights at our Fatherhood Talks conversation, when fathers can come in and have real conversation and be able to be empowered and acknowledged as a father. And then when acknowledgement is given, success is given, you see the growth. I've never seen someone who you penalize be successful. I never.
Good point.
And it
life. Go ahead.
I just wanted to, being the elder statesman of the group, I just wanted to kind of go back. And I think that government intrusion has probably been the #1 wrecker of Black families and their relationships. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. It is hard for a Black man or any man to compete against the government. When you have the government that would come in and say, I am willing to do those things that the father should be doing, And in turn, thank you, Janet Reno, for saying, I'm going to make that father in turn, after the state pays, I'm going to make him pay. So that just destroys a relationship. That destroys a relationship in several ways. Number one, you have just alienated the man, and now he's emasculated. And secondly, you have empowered the female, because now it's like, I can have two daddies. Now, which one is the best daddy? You know, and I can beat down one daddy and keep another daddy. You know, so those once, and I've seen it, you know, during the day, if Black men and women have been having kids out of wedlock forever. This is nothing new. But what the changed was that most of the time, once that woman got pregnant and she was not married, she did one of two things. She went out of town, or number two, or she stayed in the big house with dad, granddad, great granddad, and all of them raised that child. Now, those things have changed. The government had came in and said, you know what we'll do is we'll take you out of the home. We will put you in a home. We will feed you. We'll feed the child, and we will take care of the child and take care of his needs. In other words, you're taking the dad's place. You know, I think that just destroyed the relationship between men and women. But, you know, that's just me. What do y'all think?
I think you dead on. I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think what you said was super powerful, because when we talk about the tentacles, when we talk about, you know, the system of injustice, because we would like to call it the justice system, the injustice system. But then, you know, I think one of the other ways, you know, Ron had asked a question about how are we interfered with is mass media, who is in lockstep with the policies that present, you know, Black men in a certain way on a daily basis, in film and television. And, you know, there's a lot of publications that exalt, you know, I think this idea of, you know, the modern woman and femininity being, you know, a certain thing, and certain things that should be shunned. And so, you know, so all of these things are really just erosive to the engagement and participation of Black male energy, which is, you know, the largest threat to this entire system.
I'll do a light burn and speak on behalf of the females here.
Yeah, I have to respectfully disagree.
I knew he was coming in.
I have to respectfully disagree, and here's why. I'm thinking when you're talking about on the hierarchy, what do you call it, the hierarchy or the hierarchy of the hierarchy, the hierarchy of sociology, right? We know that the hierarchy of sociology in America, that the Black man is higher than the Black woman. We know that hands down statistically. We've done all the studies.
Who said that? About who's gays? No, we don't know that.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
Okay, again, if you're gonna, let me say it again, when it comes to wages, because I mean, most of us attach our worth for money anyway. So when it comes to wages, a Black man, when it comes to wages getting paid, he would get paid hands down more than that Black woman. He would be worth more than that Black woman in the workplace. Can we agree to that?
But say that
we could, yes or no?
We could no. I think that's a fact. But I think when you look a lot closer to that data, right, and you look at the women in the workplace, you know, and the type of work that they do, that tells like another story. See, when we look at data and statistics, I mean, Mark Twain said, "You got liars, goddamn liars, and statistics." That's sometimes that when you just look at statistics without a critical, you know, an analytical kind of like way to extrapolate that data and say, but how does that actually work in real time? You know, when you talk about, you know, who's going to college, who gets out of college, when a woman makes more money, what does that do actually for a company that she's able to take advantage of being a double minority? So I think, for example, there's a lot of places, like, we don't have to feel like, I think to some extent, we have to represent women's views, because Black women's view is in Vanity Fair, Jet, Ebony, all these other publications. There's few spaces like this where, you know, Black men could be real and talk about and kind of push back on a narrative of the Black man being the boogeyman and justifying why they shouldn't be fathers and they shouldn't be engaged. And I think it was a woman who was talking about telling other women that shocked me. I didn't know about this. I was late to this party of telling women not to have Black babies and not to have Black male babies in particular. So this kind of stuff is fermented, I think, to a large extent with the cooperation of all of these different entities where their interests are converged, and the main interest is to alienate and isolate Black men and not have them engage with their kids, not influence their children, so that they can't be viable competitors in the world place.
And okay, and I can agree with that. But what I am saying is listen, your position in the world, particularly as a man, and I don't care what color man you are, if you're going to be the head, you can't say, okay, we're the head, you understand, and negotiate. And again, remember I said this before, when it comes at, ass, just say it for what it is. And so I think most of our negotiation happen at the ass, as opposed to being to the head to where we are. And we forfeit our head and what the accountabilities and the responsibilities it comes to being the head. And we negotiate a lot and supposed to seeing sex for what it really is, the procreation tool that it really is. We have made it a recreation. And as such, I'm going to be honest with you, the U.S. government don't give a damn more about the Black woman than they do about the Black man. So let's just kill that notion, period, right? But I think sometimes to give the Black man an excuse, right? And I'm not denying the experience, but they're giving him an excuse. And I think sometimes and oftentimes we play the Black man just as much against the Black woman as we do the Black woman against the Black man. Now I can understand the Black woman's justification. You understand? And I believe, and when I spoke about this in private, but I can speak about it in public, I had to take accountability. I had to search my soul and say, okay, Lionel, what kind of legacy have you left in the Black culture as it pertains to Black women? And guess what? What affects the Black woman affects the Black children. And so I had to realize, like, wow, Lionel, you left a lot of broken women. And I think Frederick Douglass said it best, it's easier to fix create a strong child than it is to fix broken men. I'm paraphrasing on that. If that is true, then I'm like, if that applies to broken men, then what does that look like in a broken woman? You understand? So I had to be more empathetic to understand the 4 areas that I actually broke them women in. And this is it. I'm going to tell you just I can make an intelligence out of it now, but it was just instinct and ignorance back then. I broke, first of all, the first brokenness I gave to a woman was just a simple broken promises. And then came the broken hymens. And then came the broken heart. And then there came the breaking of the water when that child got there. Now, if you see that you got broken promises, broken hymens, broken hearts, and broken waters, and then you're going to bring your child, because you remember, he's still yours too. And you're going to bring your child into all that brokenness. And then we wonder why we have broken children too. Because again, we're going to have to fix those broken men, because contrast is not broken, really, it's not broken women. It was the broken men systemically, back to your point, the broken man systemically he was broken, right? But statistically, we have broken our women. And until we own up to that, there's no real wholeness, you understand, that we're going to achieve as it comes to really collectively bringing our families forward. Oh, I'm busy.
Well, I think you finally brought it down to one of the other obstacles. The obstacles is ourselves. When you're talking about what is a major obstacle, it's us in the relationship with that person who had that child with us. It's how we deal with them so that we can engage them without a court system in play. Because we already know the system is already against us. So how do we circumvent the system in order for us to get the best out of the relationship within the household? Now we can parent together, we can co-parent together, living together, we can co-parent together, living apart. Now the trick is, how do we mend our relationship as adults so that we can now deal with the child that we brought into the world? Because like Lionel put it, you broke a heart. It's hard to break a heart. Once you break promises, that trust is hard to get back. So how do you mend those fences? Because a lot of times, we've had this discussion before, a lot of times when the women are looking to the government to fix the problem, it's because they're mad at the men who did them wrong. And so how do we, as the man who has done them wrong, correct those actions so we can then say, hey, look, we don't need courts. We don't need these people in our lives. What we need is unity within our home, unity within ourselves, so that we can continue to progress with, and make another generation that doesn't do the same thing that we did.
Can it be, does it always have to be that men have did women wrong? Or can it be that there are people who don't know how to have true relationships? So they have conflictual relationships that ultimately lead, that most of the time are established through sexual activity. Could that be it? Because there are some instances
that is it. I mean,
that is it.
Hold on, because we begin to sometimes, and I hear this, and I have a major concern with this, when we begin to devalue women as to children. Because when we say that this woman didn't know something about this man that she got involved with, the involvement in the relationship, or these things happen, and say, oh, it's all the man's fault. We do it very unconsciously. Make men smarter than women, know what's going on in the relationship. They have planned, and I think that's not always the case. There's women, listen,
that's really the case,
who call men that they want their baby daddy more than men are calling women they want their baby mom. And so it's just a culture type thing. I
think it goes both folds. I'm not saying that there are not women out there who are sneaky, who are conniving, who do what they have to do to try to trap a man. Yes.
Whole bunch of them.
There are, right? But we have to understand that once I'm taking it as a standpoint as now this kid is here, I can't fix the person on the other side. I can only fix myself. I can't keep banging my head against the wall trying to make you better. I can only do what I have to do for myself to be better. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense. So when I talk about the experience between correcting, it's not so much that I'm absolving the woman of her action, because it takes two. It takes two. They tell you a woman decides whether she's going to sleep with a man within the first minute that she sees him, right? And it's up to us as men to keep that interest in them so we can achieve that, right? So it's like basic instinct, animal kingdom. The man has to peacocks, the man pokes out the feathers. It's always the male who has to do the dance to attract the female. You see what I'm saying? But I'm not saying that in all cases. In some cases, it's reversed. The woman already has her intentions and her hooks ready to go. So
I don't know what you're talking about, because I don't be poking out no feathers.
No, I know exactly what he's saying. Stop acting like you don't know what he's saying. We always flossing. That's why we buy nice cars and we buy the nice gear and all sorts of kind of stuff. I know what he's talking about.
I'm just saying,
he's not crazy.
I stay smooth. Because I stay smooth, I don't have to do extra stuff.
I don't know about that peacocking either.
I'm in agreement with him to some degree. I believe we are plants and animals. And I know when I put that in the mix, it makes us think. There are certain things that men do and there are certain things that women do. If you go back to the past, majority of the culture, our culture, is that the daughters are raised to find a husband that will take care of her, that will marry her and give her this fantasy. We know that some sons are raised to provide, to be the man. And with those cultures, as we talk about the past and the present and the future, when you raise your child not to be, how can I say, maybe independent or to fend for their own, to some degree, we're setting the children up for failure. Then we go into the future now, and not every African-American male has the opportunity to make the money to provide a suitable home, not only for himself, but for his partner, for his children. So if we were to look into it, and I'm the guy who likes to talk about the dollars. You guys know me for that. In Broad County, what you've got 33,000 is seen as poor if you have 2 children. And if you do the maths and look at many of the men here, some of the men, they don't earn that kind of money. And these create problems. They create problems in the relationship when most of both partners are financially handicapped. So the only way to grow, in my opinion, is where both parties become of value. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying value overnight, but take your time and climb the ladder. Because what we're seeing happening here is that many relationships are breaking up where a female finds another dude and she says, okay, this dude is going to make me happy than this dude. But she has not progressed. Or even if the guy does it, he has not progressed. He's only made him or herself a value to the other person. So I just want to put in the mix there. We need to make changes that will make our family grow and deal with challenges that we deal with every day. Rent increase, food increase, gas increase. These things are sometimes orchestrated. We're puppets or puppeteers, whichever way you want to call it. But we need to really look into the real issues of families that are breaking up, that are having these issues, and it's whether they move to another family, they still bring the same issues with them.
Right. I love that you said that, because it made me think about, why we are where we are. And I think to a very large extent, part of how the game is played with us is that other people are setting the benchmark. Other people are telling us what is manhood. Other folks are telling us that we're no good and that we're liars and deceivers. We are being defined by people outside of ourselves. And then we kind of contort and acquiesce to all these notions that, somehow, we did something wrong. We as bad. First of all, I like to say women control 100% access to sex. The only way you're going to have sex, men, is if women say, okay. Outside of that, it's rape, right? 100%? So if they control 100% access, right, to sex and sexual experience, right? Men, as some of the panelists said, we peacock, and believe it or not, it's not even so much about the women. We understand that we're competing with other men. So we try to show women that we're able to provide for you. We're able to do all the X, Y, and Z, and da, da, da. And then you have some women, they can have a really nice guy, like, our panelist here, Lionel, and so and so and so, and they'll skip over him and they'll get some hood dude that can't provide for her, and it's that and the other, and it could be some other kind of situation because she's looking at this fantasy of this thing that they keep promoting on television, which I brought up initially as the media is lockstep with this whole system, not the economic system, as well as the judicial system that puts us almost like in this corner. That's why I really can ever align my voice with this census that Black men are, it's somehow our fault, and we got to do this, that, and the other. Look, the fact that we're speaking a language that's not even our language, that we have never been repaired, we never got reparation, we've never been debriefed from, much of our behavior today, gentlemen, it comes from, it's in our DNA. Lakota Summer Moon, she did a wonderful blog that talked about how a lot of our trauma, and we don't understand it, we can't relate to this, it's intergenerational. It has come from the fact that our fathers and our father's father have experienced certain types of treatment, and we've never been healed from that. And that's why therapy and Therapy Thursdays is so important for Black men. We got to get our heads right, and we got to understand this game that's being played that make us feel guilty as men, that we did something wrong, we manipulated the women. When women want Disney, they don't even want reality. They don't know how. Many women, I'm not saying all or anything like that, but what I'm saying is that we understand that when we come to the table, a lot of these expectations that a lot of Black women in particular have for Black men are not realistic. So when you talk about broken promises, what are we promising? What do we promise? As opposed to looking at, and I'm gonna be honest, a lot of people we talk about, but we in the same boat. No, we not. We in the same storm, but we ain't in the same boat. We're not. And so I cannot align my voice that says that's going to be critical to men, because I think that that's falling into Vanity Fair, Essence, and all these other publications that say, yeah, these men, they just horrible people, and they're deadbeats, because that's the conversation we're having, and they're not, they're not stepping up to the plate, and look at this and look at this guy. They just want to have sex and run and all this other kind of stuff. And that's our basic nature. We are sexual beings, and that's our job, to procreate. I told him, I spoke to a brother the other day who said he don't want to have any kids, and that broke my heart. He was like, yeah, not with these women, I won't have no kids. I'm like, how do we further our species? But that's that mindset that I think that's becoming popular because that's how they want us to think and behave.
Right.
Well, I noticed, and that's what I love about Tylon. He just brings the best out of me. I think oftentimes that we, particularly as men, I mean, when we talk about because we are more than a sexual being, I believe that we are a spiritual being, particularly as Black men. I think you can't get no closer to God than being a Black man. But being that as me, there's a certain accountability and responsibility that comes along with that. I understand that the same outcomes and the same challenge, because it's not so much as it is, because I would never criticize another Black man, but I will challenge him. It's just a difference between criticism and challenging. I have a right and a responsibility to challenge you because you are my brother. You understand? So you can get two Lionels at any time. You can get the nice Lionel, and you can get the necessary Lionel. And the necessary Lionel says that he knows globally, right? Globally, that male privilege outweighs white privilege. That he knows that globally. And so what we'll find ourselves doing, and we talk about how we're so different from our counterparts and our oppressor, but yet we do the same thing that our oppressors do to our own women and children. You understand? And the minute that you see procreation, and we start to use procreation as a recreation, speaking to what you said, the young man actually see that he have a right to use procreation. As a matter of fact, he have no desire to use procreation or better yet, to use procreation not as a recreational tool. He wants to use procreation as a recreational tool. That is a dangerous thing. And I think that, we always say that hurt people, but I think in this instant, yes, it's true, right? So systemic racism has hurt Black men, but in turn, Black men have hurt Black women and children. They wouldn't separate. The only thing is our hurt was more combo than the three-piece that the systemic racism gave to us. And so I think that we do have certain responsibilities and accountabilities and choices that we can make. You understand? The type of fathers you are used to demand that as the type of friends that you have. And truthfully, if you are a leader, chances are, if you're taking care of your children, your whole circle are taking care of theirs. That's how you change that. And so I think we have to look at, again, back to the equities that we do have, as opposed to the disparities that we don't have, that took us from slavery to civilization right now.
I think one of the problems in that thinking is that, what we say is that, okay, I'm successful as a father. You may be successful as a father. Maybe most of the people here are successful as fathers. But we have to keep in mind that we are successful despite oppression and racism. We can't act like because we are somehow successful in our relationships that there aren't real challenges that other people have to face. Because once again, we did it despite it. So that means we still have to fight it. And I think that's the challenge of manhood and what men do. We don't say that, "Woo, I got through. Woo, it was good for me. I'm a great dad. Look at me." Racism exists, but we got to think that we're some of the most prayerful people. We all say pray about. We're some spiritual people, all this mystical shooby-dooby. But when the rubber meets the road, right? Our kids gotta engage with the community or with the other group of Black folks and recognize that, wait a minute, we have an obligation to at least tell them people where the landmines are. If we got through, let's say like through the legal system, and I know this brother can speak to this, he has in a sense an innate obligation. That's why he's involved with this, to say, yo, brother, don't do this. Don't behave like that. Don't do that, and have our voice heard, so that all of these little I gotchas don't happen to our kith and kin and our other brothers. So yes, I think that our duty is far and wide and vast with regard to I think speaking truth to power as it relates to Black men, because we're under attack. And I'm telling you, all men aren't created equal. So when you talk about patriarchy and you talk about the challenges that Black men have with their women, it's very different than white man and the Black man, who is really juxtaposed. They're not even close to each other. You have one that was that's the slave
well, let me ask
owner
this
and
question
slave
then.
owner.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
No, go ahead.
I know Gene probably going. I just want to put a clarity in here. Is that one of the issues that we have to really think about is, and we have kind of talked about this in the aspect, in the idea of white Black, but I want us to stay clear that overall, and I have to agree with Lionel on this, is that when we look at the idea of men who run their house, they may not be fathers, but the idea of patriarchy that runs in the Asian community, the Hispanic community, the Jewish community, since they're race now, the East, the Eastern European, European-based communities, the Arabic community, and bigger than anything, are African communities. So I'm not going to just leave them out. Of all those communities, it is very clear that their men are in charge of their households. It's demanded and it's demoted in that culture. We as Black Americans, even in the Caribbean communities, the households are still demanded. I'm just saying in Black America, because in the Caribbean communities, I have never been to a Caribbean house that didn't have a father and a mother. Now, I've been to Jamaica, I've been to Trinidad, I've been to Barbados, been to St. Vincent. The standard is a father and a mother. It's only in our community, the Black community in America, that we see this idea of the question of the father. But that's not by circumstance. We got to remember historically why some of that stuff occurs. And we have to, and one of the reasons that we want to have these meetings and want fathers who are out there listening, our mothers who are listening to fathers, to come join us on Wednesday nights, is so we can start to talk about, in a strong sense of relearning, that you are that father. Because that's what the kind of part that I'm not like these other people, but we are, but we're just a little bit more special. Because we gotta remake it, we gotta regenerate it in an idea, and not just regenerate it because we don't got it, regenerate it with the fathers that we have to show you the true examples, how it operates. The playbook, we try to develop a playbook for our Black fathers in our community. And I think that's the big factor that it is, because when I worked in domestic violence, someone would have us to believe that Black men are the biggest domestic abusers, when that's ludicrous. That's ludicrous. The shelter may be full with Black women, but that's not the largest population of abusers. So I'm just let's keep it real. Mm-hmm. And all those men who are abusers run their houses. They own their houses. They demand what's happening in their houses. And we have to get to a point where we have a very unique, sometimes you take the negative and make it into a positive. We have a very unique position as Black men and Black fathers in this community, that we don't have to have that patriarchy mindset, because many of us came from matriarchies. So we can just come back and redevelop our families in a completely different dynamics with equality for us and our partner.
And that's what I was going to say. At some point we have to stop thinking intervention and start thinking prevention when it comes to the Black community. Because right now we're stuck in an intervention because there's so many, like we know there's so many broken people, right? So we have to fix that. But in turn, we also have to start doing prevention so that we don't have the cycle continue. Because what's happening is we're so focused on intervening that we're forgetting that the ones who are watching this happen and living the life are still getting those bad habits. Mm-hmm. So while we're reaching in to intervene, we have to prevent the next generation by teaching them different and by exposing them to different things in order for us to stop the cycle.
I love that. And Talana, as much as I got to disagree with you, that spiritual boo-ha-ha, it plays a big role in how we continue to get our families in the right direction. Because as Black men, part of what we do on a daily basis is be present, those that are fathers involved. And what Gene said and what you said, Tylon and Lionel, all of us here, Ron, the goal is about being present so that we can continue to prevent and be better examples, not just for the ones in our own home, but for those that are seeing us on a daily basis. Like Tylon said earlier, we are invested and involved in our children, that sometimes we are fathers to, as coaches, as teachers or whatever, the children that are not even related to us. We may be the only Black male that they see, that or that they have some level of respect for, because they see us in a positive light because of the way we treat them and the way we handle things and the way they see us and the way people respect us. So as a result, they see us as that person they may want to one day be like. So it's important for us to continue being that type of father, not just to our own children, but to the other children that we encounter outside of our life that may not necessarily eat at our table. And as long as we continue to do so, I think this derogatory term of deadbeat dad can be overcome, because we encounter a lot of young brothers who have children, in their early 20s, may not have been raised by a father, so they don't know what it means to actually be a father, and what they have been experiencing from their mom, or what they experience has been very negative. So because they don't know how to do so, they just don't know. So it's our goal that when we encounter those brothers, is to try to help share some of what we do know. And yeah, a lot of times they ain't gonna want to hear it. They ain't gonna want to hear it. What you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about, because they don't think you know. But if we can continue to, as Tyler was talking about, using our tentacles to reach out to those men from that perspective, Tyler, I think we could do a better job of making and teaching and preventing, as Robert said. And I do my part from the legal. That's why I'm here, to share as much as what I can help for us to avoid the system in a way that we can prevent not getting caught up, not getting in the drama of it. And because a lot of the young men that do come on, and we've heard them and their testimonies, unfortunately, because they're in a relationship with a woman who does not know what it means to have a positive Black man, father in her child's life, because she didn't experience it, her goal is to, unfortunately, create an obstacle for him, even though she doesn't understand, and creating that obstacle to his children, she's doing a disservice to her own children. That's why it's important for us to do all that we can to support and encourage, and like the promo, like Ron doing, come on Wednesday night, so y'all can hear how to be even better at it. Go ahead, brother Ron.
And we are at our 8 o'clock point, and so I'm gonna go into some robbing questions to you guys, and then also look and see if anybody in the chat will have questions, and I'll bring those up as I see them. First thing is, as a 24/7 dad, what are you doing for self-awareness? What are you doing? What are you guys doing as 24/7 dads for self-awareness?
Well, for me personally, I'm doing some soul searching. I truly do believe in the God of Frederick. I'm sorry, the God of Harriet, Frederick, and Martin. I subscribe to that wholeheartedly. With my soul searching, I had to realize, which brought me to a great place, but a sad place, that the greatest commodity in the Black community is the Black male. Every Black woman want to be with one, and every Black woman want to have one. If you ask the average mother, what would she prefer to have? Would she rather have a Black woman child or a Black male child? I can guarantee it, you guys can do this homework on your own. Ask the average woman what she want to have. Would she want to have a Black male child or a Black woman child? She would probably want to have a Black male child, in spite of all the statistical and systemic racisms that will be meeting that child by the time you get here. But you're still the greatest commodity in your community. And because of that, you understand, I have to still champion not their voices, but their hearts. Because as much as their voices hate you, their hearts will go to the grave loving you. And because of that, as a Black man and once a Black boy, then I have to champion and advocate for that until, again, I'm not saying anything wrong with us, but I have to first acknowledge what's wrong with me and then fix what's wrong with me to say, okay, before I can fix the society around me. And so I had to take a pilgrimage into my own soul to understand that, okay, you know what? I could have done that better. And I've done a lot of broken, and so I got to figure out that at the end of the day, and pray to God, when I do go to heaven, to make sure that I had more women to go to heaven with me than I had to go to bed.
Go on with your bad self, boy.
Anybody else want to touch base
that.
on self-awareness? If not, I go to the next.
Real quick.
Okay.
A man of respect, a man of courage, a man of honor. Those are words that we use in our fatherhood program. Not only we can use those words in our fatherhood program, we can use that in our daily lives. As we go along the journey, as we go along raising our children, dealing with our partners, we use those words, man of respect, a man of courage, a man of honor. It will challenge you. It will make you stop and think, am I doing the right thing? But I think that's a very good way to go forward.
Okay. All right. So my next characteristic of our 24/7 dad is someone who caring for yourself. Any dads here as a 24/7 dad would like to speak about how well he takes care of himself? What does he do to take care of himself? What do you do and how do you take care of yourself?
I'll say this. I'm going to be the first one to talk about that. I teach CPR, and when I ask the fathers their numbers, it's simple: your blood pressure, your glucose, your BMI. We need to know those numbers. We know our car payments, we know our rent, we know our mortgage, we know every other number, but you don't know your blood pressure. And I can tell you guys straight up front, the number one enemy for your heart is your blood pressure. Diabetes is killing us. It is the most stressful disease on a person's body. I ask everyone here and everyone out in the media world, take time just to check your blood pressure. You get your numbers right, you can live a healthy and happy life.
Ron, you get me in trouble with Ron, you get me in trouble with my wife. She's sitting here listening too. We got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Next week too. But you get me in a whole lot of trouble right now.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Anybody
I think from the standpoint of just trying to eat right and be present from the perspective of your daily routine, whether it be a small amount of exercise, just getting up from where you are and really trying to focus on eating right, because your children gonna need you. One of the things that Ron always says in our program is that our children need us more when we get older, when they're older. And if we're not physically present, it's very difficult for them to make some of the choices. And we pray that we've been involved and have taught them and have shared with them enough that when we're not here, they can make smart decisions. What would Dad have said? What would he have thought? Rather than having them ask that question, be present so they can actually ask you and get what you have to say. We got to do a better job of making sure that we make an active, daily choice about being better. Yeah, we know we are human. Some of us are on the go. I know how I am, running up and down from courthouse to courthouse. Sometimes you don't get a chance to eat the best lunch or eat a great meal. You just grab something to go. But if you can take the time throughout the day, maybe 3 times a week, just do a little exercise, that's one of the things that will help us be a better dad.
Mm-hmm. Take the
I think Brother Talon hit on it a little earlier when he talked about mental state. We also have to take care of ourselves mentally, not just physically. It's about being able to, reset our mind. I think, I always tell people it's worse to be mentally tired than it is to be physically tired. I can sleep and wake up refreshed, but mentally it's on my mind 24 hours a day and I can't get away from it. So one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure you're keeping that mental state in tip-top condition, because when you are going to go answer those questions, you want to be in the right space. You want to be in the right mind frame, and you want to be in the right place, not only for yourself, but for the family that you're trying to bring forth. So mental state is important.
I would say here, the most important exercise you can do is a mental exercise. And I can share with you, brothers, every morning before, I even start my day, I have water. I go to bed with a bottle of water with lime in it, so that I can have that like the first thing that I take. But after I take that, how many of us get up and the first thing we do is meditate? Take care of our mind and clear our mind of, all the kind of things that happened yesterday. And so that's a must, but particularly and especially, I would say, Black men. That's the tip I'm on. Like, man, we don't do it. We get up, I gotta get, what time is it? I gotta go to work. I gotta do that. Did I do that? That? Clean. First thing you do when you get up, whatever dreams they drink and cleanse, and just make sure that you have at least 15 to 20 minutes before you move your body or do anything else, unless you gotta go to the bathroom. Just clear your mind and be present. Listen to your heartbeat. Be present in that moment and not think about anything from the past. Don't think about what you got to do, during the day or 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now. Just be with yourself in that moment. And that's going to do a lot to kind of de-stress yourself as men, because I'm telling you, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, Black men are the target, and you are constantly under attack that we think is normal. We are suffering from a trauma trance, like Cleo Monago said. It's trauma, and it's like we got us in a trance state, and that's why doing a mental cleanse in the morning is going to help you push through all the challenges during the day. Then you could do the exercise, you could do the eating right and all that, but you got to get your mind right. You got to clear it out first, because we got a lot of stuff. We got bills, we got this person in our ear, that person in our ear, and all this other kind of stuff. But let's start from that mental cleanse first thing in the morning.
Okay, so the next one is one that I think many people don't even know that exist, is fathering skills. We know, the uniqueness of this skill, father skills, because only fathers have it. It is the uniqueness of a father. And I asked you guys, how are you practicing? How well are you doing your fathering? What do you do for your fathering skills? How well do you father as a father?
My kids are still alive, so I think I'm winning. But but I think one thing also is just to recognize, just with the fathering skills, is to recognize the differences that they have. Don't forget that you once were a kid yourself. I think I tell families, parents this all the time. You were once a kid yourself. Don't forget that. So the things that your kids are doing is not foreign to you. Don't act like it's a shock, because I'm sure that you did it in the past also. How did you deal with it, and how would you deal with it, or how would you have wanted to be dealt with when you did it, so you can pull on that to deal with your kids? But sometimes, we pull back to our experiences of how it was dealt with us, or good or bad, and we do that same path, knowing that we didn't like it when it happened to us. So sometimes you got to pull back and think about your experience, and don't forget you were a kid also, and help you. But also, most importantly, groups like this, find them, join them, talk to other fathers about their experiences. Don't be afraid to continue to learn and educate yourself, because there's no right or 100% blueprint when it comes to kids. There's only experience, knowledge, and other people's expertise.
Good point. I'm sorry, go ahead. Age before beauty, go ahead.
Really? Okay, sir. No problem, Mr. Lionel. Thank you for that. But Mr. Manor, you were right. We have to remember that we were once children before, because how the situations happen between us and our parents have to be very different than how we handle our children. Because going back to the trauma part, most of the parenting that we had when we were children, coming from a matriarchy instead of a patriarchy,
is the fact that we had to deal with a whole lot of emotions, a whole lot of different views than what we view. We see differently out in the street when we had our so-called quote unquote OGs or the big boys out there. When we went to go hang out or kick it, it was a different story. So it goes back to the trauma, and it also goes back to that point that you made. We have to think differently than our parents did with us when we were children.
All right, so with that, okay, let's go to the next one. So I mean, that fathering skills is not so easy, but we know that parenting skills is. And so when we look at parenting skills, that's something that both mothers and fathers both can do simultaneously. There is no, grandmas usually end up doing it a lot more than anything else. Aunties and uncles who take on kids and parent them. What are you doing as a 24/7 dad? How do you parent? How well do you parent?
I'll jump in. You know, my kids are a little older. They're 20 and 23. My daughter just turned 23 this past Monday. And, you know, one of the things that, as far as where we are now, as far as parenting, obviously it changes as your children grow, how you parent. From the perspective of you have a more hands-on approach when they're younger. And then when they become teenagers, you're doing a lot more talking to kind of teach them about some of the things to avoid and you know, steps to not fall into. And as they get older, you're not just guiding, you're more making suggestions. You're not telling them what to do, because sometimes you want them to make choices where they may learn how to make a mistake and bounce back from it, but you just want to be ever present. So from a parenting perspective, I've learned to be more about suggestions, listen to what they have to say, because they're telling you from their perspective and how they're living now, not to force your history and experience onto them, but more so just listen and then make suggestions about how you may have handled it or how you handled it, but during a different time, and they may see something different. But if they ever want to share before they make a choice, they can always pick up the phone and call you or reach out to you. And once you lend that to them, they're more apt to want to hear what you have to say, because you're not telling them how to do it, but you're just giving them advice and guidance on how you may have handled it. So that's how my parenting skills has been able to develop over time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else? Parenting skills?
Yeah, I'm glad he said it, because to embody what everyone just said, is how do we transform our history into a strategy, and how do we transform our evolution into a solution? What they're saying is spot on. If I had to put everything under one topic guideline, but he's right. I remember how my mom, where she may have not had the scholastic makeup, she had this divine wisdom on how to deal with me as her child. So where she may have had a doctorate degree in being my mother, you understand, she only might have had less than a GED in society, but she was a master of being my mom. And certain things I looked at her, the way how she dealt with me, she didn't have no classes for that. It was so divine and instinctive and organic. I think we need to not do away with our organic selves. You understand? It takes a lot of humility to deal with your organic self. It takes a lot of soul searching to deal with your organic self, so you can give and have the best outcomes with your children. So, I mean, sometimes I can be so pig-headed, only God can talk to me. You understand? And I mean, that might be most men. But sometimes I have to sit down and just listen to a simple voice, and God is not complex at all. He'll just give you something simple like, let them ask you. And I'm talking about, I have grown children now. And my problem was, I was often trying to impose the solution on them, as opposed to making them partners in their own solutions. So, I mean, it's a lot of learning. I think we're going to evolve all the way to the grave, but I'm open for the suggestion.
All right, and then our last characteristic, and probably I would say would be one of the most important ones that I focus so much on when we're talking about having children, and the idea of having children. We should have been focusing and working on this before. Our relationship skills, because I think a large majority of us work more on our sexuality skills with the opposite sex than we work on our relationship skills. And then we find out later on that the sexuality skills don't do nothing for us in the long run. Well, they did something for you at that
I was about to
moment.
say, speak for yourself.
It really did something for you at the moment. It was,
Oh,
it might have
Lord.
been, but later on, it ain't, you ain't, and matter of fact, it might not do nothing but keep you. So I ask you guys, as fathers, how well do you relate, and what are you doing to relate to the mother of your children, or your wife, or your partner?
I would say that as a divorcee, one thing I've learned from the Fatherhood program and listening to these great men who have taught me, I've managed to do more listening. Listening is a skill. You guys probably hear me say it all the time. If you just listen, you can learn a lot. And two people talking at the same time, it's not going to work. Listen, comprehend, and respond. After you have mastered that skill, you'll find relationship in business, in relationship with your children will go much more easier.
And also master language. Don't just master listening skills, because effective communication comes not only through listening, but also how you say what you're trying to say. Because the minute that you say it a certain way and put someone on the defensive, you've lost the conversation, regardless on how much you're trying to keep it positive. So practice your delivery skills, practice the listening skills, and also just practice being open-minded, because there's more than one right way to do something.
And to piggyback off that, also choose your words wisely. If you don't choose your words wisely, it will cause an emotional reaction instead of somebody sitting there listening and comprehending the conversation.
Like, words are like bullets. Careful how you fire the words.
And I agree. I think we should also honor us what our significant other, spouses or whatever the case, or our partners or co-parenting partners do, as opposed to highlighting what they don't do. So I think we have to really honor what they do and how it help us out. Because at the end of the day, contrary to because of the adversary circumstances you guys may have, you're more allies than you are adversaries. So definitely honor the things they do as opposed to highlighting the things they don't do.
Yeah, but I think one of the big things I've always told clients, especially in sessions when people were at odds with one another or had difference of opinions, is that if we use the mirror technique most of the time to relate to people, things will work out better. They just got to be a miserable person, and that if you smile at them, they don't smile back. If you don't say how you feeling, they don't. Hey, how we've been conditioned to do that. Even if people don't mean it, they've been conditioned to. How you doing today, Lionel? Lionel might not. Oh, how you doing today? No, he don't care how I'm doing today. But and this is a mentality, because just like we say, I'm so sick and tired of you. The person will say they sick and tired of you as well. They're not gonna say, "Oh, you sick and tired of me," but I love you so much, I'll do anything you want. That's not gonna happen. I mean, and if there is, just know you might not need to go to sleep that night. You might keep one eye open because they're not telling you the truth, they're not telling you the truth. So we're looking at this being able to relate, and this relating part is a real big part. I say, as we come almost close to our time, to really understanding and having some real understanding of this idea of deadbeat dads, and who are deadbeat dads and how deadbeat dads operate. One of the big components of this thing of being a deadbeat dad is that this person doesn't know how to relate to their mom. They don't know how to communicate with her the same way as Lionel would say, he doesn't know how to finesse her like when he was finessing before the child. There's some brothers out here know how to finesse, keep on finessing. And finessing is good because finessing takes a skill. It takes you to be able to relate. And because you can't finesse nothing if you can't relate with the person you're trying to finesse. So, you know, and we're not, and I know somebody about that. It sounds like y'all trying, no, we're not. We're just saying that there's ways to do things. And the ultimate goal to this is for the best benefit of your child. I ain't telling you to finesse the mom just to finesse. I'm saying that your child is unhappy if you and the mother are not connected. The child's unhappy if they only spend all their time with you and not with the father, or not with the mother, or not with any of the father's family, or anybody. It's just your family. The child is affected by that. And are those things in the best interest? So dads, what you need to do to make sure these things occur and should happen. And that's, you know, that's what we had. I know that when we came up with this topic and we knew that it would spark some eyebrows, but we also knew that we wanted to bring the true response of real fathers. Some who may have been at some point called deadbeat dads at one time or another. Ultimately to show that we can use a word like this as an inspiration of showing us how we can become 24/7 dads. It doesn't have to be a life sentence to what has to happen. We can reverse that, not fight it, but because we don't want to fight anything. We want to reframe it into what we are and what we're doing every day for our children. And so I say that, and just to talk a little bit about next week, you guys got a freebie tonight on, I won't say a freebie, but Facebook was our mode of getting this out. But next week we'll be live onto our YouTube page. You can, I suggest people go to the YouTube page. I put it in the chat, subscribe to it. So you will get the notifications for when we go live on our shows. So you can hear some more of our interesting topic. I think we already have a topic for next week.
Yeah, we do.
You want to tell us what it is, attorney? Because
Yeah,
I know you the best memory.
You know that it's mama's baby, daddy's maybe.
Right. So mama's babies, daddy's maybes, and and this is one of those important conversations to even establishing. And I'm not gonna go into it. Just tune in next week and see what we're gonna talk about. Mama's babies, daddy's maybes, and what the panel has to say and what we're going to bring forth from our fatherhood talk conversation. I right now I just want to go around and let fathers, if you have any last thoughts, last words that you want to share before we go into our chant and in our show for the night.
You know, I always got to talk about the Colored Only Cafe, where the conversation is hot, black, and strong. It happens every Thursday. We got my man, Dr. Ron, in the house all the time, Brother Pete, Black Panthers. We have such a diverse voices of Black folks. It's exclusive for Black people who are unapologetically Black. Get on and talk about our issues, our unique challenges, and also talk about solutions. And that's one very unique aspect of our show, is that we're not just complaining, which I'm not against. You know, I think we're not complaining enough. I think we're being suckered into not complaining, but there's also action. And Ron can tell you, you know, there's sisters that come on with situations, and the brothers are right there to help out and support. We support each other. So it's a growing community. It's an experience as well as an experiment, and us agreeing, but not disagreeing, but not being disagreeable. Because like I said, we got 5%ers, we got Muslims, we got Deshaun Farad, it's such a diverse, eclectic group of Black folks that come together, that people say they can't get along and we can't talk about certain things, but we get there and we talk about it and we be about it. And it's called the Colored Only Cafe. It's every Monday, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's on the Zoom at 871-3370-0834. Once again, for rebroadcast, it's on the ID number 871-3370-0834. And the code is Dark Roast, one word, all capital letters.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Anybody else?
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you know what? You know, I'm gonna take a step. a page from Lionel here with statistics. I just want to let you guys know with the, you know, a lot of times, you know, the deadbeat dad, our topic, our subject, but there's a rise of single fathers taking care of their kids. Right now, a little over 24% of that every household is actually a single father raising their kids. And so that narrative, that term is actually taking, you know, it's being, you know, slowly dying out because a lot more fathers are stepping up and doing what they have to do. And so hopefully, you know, within the next 2-3 years, deadbeat dad will be a thing of the past, and it'll just be dads doing their thing. It's more commonplace, more socially accepted, and it's going to be a little bit more diverse when it comes to understanding what fathers do and how we do what we do.
Okay, great.
I would say that we just need to, if we continue to be the man that you know we've been called to be, not just for our, like I said, in our homes, but outside in our communities, whatever way we can impact young children and be involved with other young Black males who may be going through this situation of raising but don't know how to do it. They have never gotten any guidance. Please, as a father, if this is your goal to be the kind of man that God has called you to be, just continue to do that for other men. Because the fact that I'm older means I could be a father to a 20-some-year-old man who's raising a little kid who doesn't know what he's truly going through. So let's continue to share our experiences, speak, talk up, let people know what you've gone through. And sometimes they're gonna tell you mind your own business because this ain't got nothing to do with you. But it's essential for us to continue to speak up and to be a word of encouragement and sometimes a word of correction when we see something not going in the right direction, whatever it may be. So excited and continue to be happy about being a father and being a dad. So I wanted to share that in my experience. Thank you all for the time tonight.
Okay. Anybody else before we close out?
But yeah, I believe that we there needs to be a marriage and a divorce going on right now. And I think we ought to commit to this particular marriage and divorce that's I'm getting ready to talk about. I think we need to, as a humanity, but let's just speak in manhood and fatherhood right now. I think as a man, I am married and we need to marry each other's purposes, right? And divorce each other's personalities. Because I think too often in our culture, in our community, and in this world, we break down at personality differences and we divorce ourselves from the purpose, as opposed to saying, okay, you know what? No, we're gonna stay faithful to the purpose, but let's divorce each other's personalities. So I think most time, a lot of things can be solved if we just divorce the personalities, AKA the petty, and stay true and married to each other's purpose, no matter what the weather is. And so I think I want to just tell and thank every brother on here for allowing me to be and stay married to your purpose, even when our personalities don't get along.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, hey, we want to thank everybody for who tuned in with us tonight. Again, you can come back next week and watch us right here, but on our YouTube channel, where we will have that up and running. And I just would, just want to remind the real reason for us, and I kind of just to say this, the real reason for us having this show is so people can join us, fathers can join us on our closed father talks on Wednesday night. It is a Zoom meeting. I'll put a link I'll put that link in the chat along, how people can get in contact, how they can get involved onto the call. And so we definitely want to, if you're looking for, I almost sound like a reverend, if you're looking for a church home, if you're looking for a fatherhood home, don't feel bashful or shy. We definitely will be here. There's no judgment. There's no question. We accept all. We really want to more talk and give you a place to be able to express yourself and be able to hear other fathers' experiences. Because that's what we know will be successful. There is not too many spaces for men, definitely not fathers. So definitely we want to be able, as much as possible, be able to allow you to come into that. And again, we have one tomorrow night at 6:30 to 8:30. So if you are interested, just look in the link on the page. It will tell you where to go and how to connect with us. Other than that, gentlemen, we're going to go out with our chant and we're going to have a good night. Repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
A
I
man of
am
a
courage.
man
A man of courage.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I
am
am a man of respect.
man of respect.
Come on, y'all can get a little bit hyper. I am.
I am.
You are.
You are.
You are.
We
We
are.
are.
Championship, father.
Let's go.
All right. I want to thank
All
everybody
right.
for coming in and watched us. We'll be here again next week for you to share with your friends. But if fathers, if you really are interested in having some conversation, put your information, your name in the chat, let me know, and I'll definitely get that information to you so you can join us tomorrow night. Other than that, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time tonight. And
All right, my brothers. Y'all
Y'all have a blessed one.
Good night.
All right, take care, brother.
Good night.
Successful conversation and good night.
Good night.
Good night, bros.